Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well this evening, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to tune in to Horizon's second community webinar of the year, where we're going to talk about templates, presets, and how you can do more with less. Now, my name is Brian. I'm here to help you out through. Great to see you, everyone. My name is Brian. Sorry, lost my train of thought. Great to see you, everyone. And I am the onboarding and training specialist at Horizon. I'm going to be helping our superstar, Mr. Carson, here throughout the presentation. But if there's anything I can do after the fact, please feel free to reach out by phone or email. Always there to help you out. And speaking of our superstar, Mr. Alan Carson, how are you doing tonight, Alan?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Brian. How are you?
Thank you. Are you eager to share your secrets of success about templates and presets?
I can hardly wait.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Now, before I pass the reins over, I do want to explain the control panel. Looking at the attendance list, I know a lot of you have already heard this spiel before, but for people that are new, first, welcome to the community. And secondly, you're going to have a control panel on the right side of your screen. You can expand or minimize it at any point in time using the orange button that's highlighted here. Now, when you have the control panel expanded, you can also select your preferred audio method. Hopefully, everyone's already listening in. You can hear me, you can hear Alan, which is perfect. But any trouble listening through your speakers, select phone call, get a toll-free number, dial in for future reference. And yes, this is being recorded. It will be on our YouTube channel this coming Friday. We're also going to be sending out a newsletter with that information, so stay tuned. Now, questions, my friends. Please feel free to submit them at any time. We'll do our best to address as many questions as we can during the Q&A period. If we're not able to address your question during the Q&A period, we guarantee that we'll respond by email tomorrow with an answer as best we can. So don't hesitate to ask a question, and we'll do our best to get them all answered for you in short order. Now, enough of me. Alan, let me pass the reins on over, and let's hear from you, good sir.
All righty. Well, Brian, thank you. Appreciate all the work in the foreground and getting this together. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We should have a little bit of fun with this tonight. And wherever you are, I hope the weather is better than the freezing rain we are getting here. I just stepped outside and it's pretty darn slippery where we are. So hope you're someplace better. Before I get started, my thoughts are always a reflection of my experiences. And I've just had so many things happen lately that I just have to say this, that as home inspectors, what we do is so special and so unique. I want to emphasize, and I hate when people call it an industry or a trade. I think of it as a professional consulting practice. I think of you folks as professionals. And it's just so different what we do than what so many other professions do. We help clients make one of the most important decisions in their life, about the biggest purchase they're ever going to make, the biggest lifestyle decision they're ever going to make, where they're going to raise their family. And what we do, I don't think most people outside of our profession understand that we go through a house and we're dealing with incomplete information. We're dealing with deductive reasoning, making conclusions, offering opinions. And we are processing hundreds and thousands of thoughts during an inspection. And then the other side, or the back end of that I don't think we give ourselves enough credit for, is the quality of communication. So during an inspection, we are one-on-one presenters, communicators. I think of it more as a conversation than a presentation. And that has to be done elegantly. That has to be done listening as well as speaking to the client, addressing their needs and concerns. And then the written report that we provide is so much better than what I see most other professions doing, who have a lot more time and have a lot more opportunity to research and prepare their thoughts. I don't know if you folks do, but at Carson Dunlop, we generate our reports the same day as the inspection. Clients and agents are typically blown away at their first experience with that, and especially the quality of the communication. So I just want you to stop and think about what you do and be proud of what you do. because even more than a profession, it's almost become a calling. And people take this so seriously. And in a number of the conversations, we're reminded of how far our inspectors go to take care of their clients. And it goes beyond working for a living. So I just wanted to remind you how special you are and to say thank you for what you do for everyone that you touch. All right, let's turn my phone off and let's move on to the next slide. Alan, let's get to work here. Okay, I also wanted to touch on something. We have been frustrated as a profession with our clients, home buyers, being pressured and forced to foregoing a home inspection based on crazy real estate markets, bidding wars, and so on. And so a group of us have gotten together and formed a loose coalition called the Canadian Home Inspectors for Consumers. And with respect to our American viewers, this story plays equally well. We called it Canadian to apply to our immediate audience, but the message is uniform across North America. And I know lots of areas in the States are having the same kind of problem with people foregoing inspections. It's made up of some associations, some franchises, and Carson Dunlop. And our mission is really to remind consumers of their right to get a home inspection and to try and get the media and consumers to raise their voices and raise their hands to push to get a home inspection done on every purchase. And we've put together a little website. Now you should understand the website is created for the media. We've put out a press release. We had amazing feedback from the press release and lots of press opportunities. The website is really directed for the media, not for consumers, because whenever the media gets a press release, they want to go and have a look and do some more. So there's a bit of background information there. So you're welcome to go look, but it's not fancy and it's not consumer focused. I would encourage all of you to have a look at this message, especially the press release on the homepage, and give us your thoughts as to whether you think the message can be better. If you like the message, I'd encourage you to help spread it to everyone you speak to. And I have one other request around this. The media is always asking us, do you have any stories of consumers who did not get a home inspection, moved into the house, and ended up with a lot of unexpected expenses and problems? If you have any stories, any firsthand experiences with this, I would love for you just to send those along to me. And our media group, we're working with a PR company. They would love to touch base with those consumers and see if we can just share with the rest of our community how important it is to get a home inspection. All right, enough about that for the moment. Okay, so let's lay out the agenda for tonight a little bit, and I'm going to try and keep moving through. We're going to talk about templates, why they exist, what they are. We're going to do a little sidebar on presets because the two go hand in glove. They really belong together. And then we'll dive in a little bit more deeply to creating and using templates, how we do that. And we'll close out by touching on auto include, which is kind of a cousin to both presets and templates, but a little different. And then we'll move to our Q&A session. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. My mouse is not behaving, sorry. There we go. And a quick note as I start, to those of you who have been around a long time, what I love about this audience, by the way, is we have some people just getting started. We have some people who've been around forever. So those of you who have been around, you're going to say, this feels pretty basic. Some of this is going to seem like I already know this. However, as I look at so many companies' templates, I see that so many people are not using them to best advantage and are not optimizing. And in part, that's our fault, because what's happened historically is we introduced templates a long time ago and they had a role and people used the templates. But what's happened is more recently we've added presets to the mix, which are similar but different and have a very special place. So presets have really changed the role of templates. And a lot of folks who have been doing this for a while are still using templates in a way that actually would probably be a better job for a preset. And we'll spend some time looking at that tonight. Okay. Come on, slide. There we go. The other thing I'm going to remind people is that tonight you're going to get my philosophy. You're going to get Alan's way of doing things. And as so many people, including Brian, love to remind me, Alan's not always right. And so you'll be able to listen to what I say, but I want you to question it. I want you to challenge it and say, does this work in my business? Does this work in my region? And perhaps most importantly, does this work for my clients? And you can see I've stricken the line down below about what's right for me, because I think every successful home inspector focuses on what their clients need, what's not the most convenient, quick, and easy thing for the home inspector. So with that focus in mind, feel free to say, Alan, I don't agree with you. And my hope tonight is that I spur some questioning and thinking. And if you walk away doing one or two things differently than you've done before, I hope that's going to be adequate reward for what we're going to do tonight. Okay, let's see if I can get things to cooperate here. There we go. Okay, so we've got our agenda. Let's go ahead and get started. So what is it about templates? Well, first of all, everybody should know, and if you're new to Horizon, template is an integral Horizon feature. So this is not separated, add-on, separate fee or anything. This is just integral to Horizon. And in a nutshell, a template is a number of report items that you can enter in a single tap. So it accomplishes a lot very quickly. And so that is elegantly simple and pretty valuable tool. Now, what could a template include? Well, descriptions, limitations, and recommendations. It can include location, task, time, and cost, although I've put location in brackets because a template is a broad set of report entries. And location is very often specific to what is going on in that house. So sometimes a template deserves to have a location, but a lot of times it doesn't. The other thing I've included here is cost, but I recognize and appreciate that probably the majority of home inspectors across North America do not include repair costs in their reports. So up to you folks whether you use that or not, but it is a tool at your disposal. Okay, what else can you put in a template? Well, one of the nice things is you can write a note, get it perfect, and then capture it forever. Preset recommendations, we talked about them as a related thing. I'm also going to talk about a preset as a subset of a template. And so you can have a preset recommendation that becomes part of a template. And again, we'll look at some examples. You can include both the standard Horizon database items and any custom items you have in your templates. And of course, illustrations, implications, and reference articles can be baked right in. Links to other content, you have the opportunity to put a URL in. I think this one is hugely underused, by the way. At Carson Dunlop, we like to link to authoritative sources for more information about topics. I think that makes us look good, and it's a very easy thing to build into a template. The other thing I want to say, and this one is critically important if you're a little bit absent-minded like me, and that is the ability to automatically add something to a summary. You can build your template in such a way so that that report item automatically ends up in the summary. So no chance of forgetting to move that, copy it into the summary. So I really like that feature. Okay. So let's pause for a second and just figure out, so where are templates in report writing? How do I use them? And also, where do I create and edit my templates? And Brian, can I impose on you just to do a quick show and tell on that one?
Sure, not a problem, Alan. So we'll get into one little segment here, and then we'll get into obviously the creating of a template a little later. So just talking back to my Horizon account here for a moment, everyone. I'm at my home screen. What I always recommend is getting a test inspection created at some point that you sort of use as a sandbox. So I've got that set up here, and I'm going to go to report writing. I'm just going to point out where you would be able to apply your templates from here, and then I'll circle back to profile to talk about where you can create them. And then obviously later we'll create them together. So you'll see here we've got a templates button at the top left corner of the screen. And this is going to show you all the templates on your account. Now, as Alan mentioned, when you sign up, you've got a few starter ones. If you're a veteran, like many people in attendance, you probably got a whole host of templates. But this is where you have the ability to select and apply the templates to the report you're writing. And you can select as many as are applicable to the report at hand. Now, as far as the ability to create templates, in your profile, that's where you sort of set up and manage everything. Under Section 3 Report Config, you're going to have a templates button or option near the bottom of the list. And this is where you'll be able to set up and manage, as we'll explore a little later. We also have some videos on our YouTube channel and Help Center, as Alan's going to mention, that also pertain to this. So you can always reference those articles as you may need, my friends. Let me get back to the PowerPoint there for you, Alan.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brian. So easy to find, easy to access, easy to use. And as Brian says, we'll get into creating templates in just a little bit. Okay. So let's see if we can make this guy move. There we go. So what kinds of things might you put in a template? Well, my first thought is whatever meets your business needs. I'm going to give you 3 examples of things that we do. One is a template that you can use if you have got a standard introductory comment for each system. It's a great thing to take those 9 comments, build them into a template, and you can add them all in a single click. A very common use of templates is the whole house description and limitation thing. And people typically do it by building age or type. You might do it by community or neighborhood, in the sense that if you've got a subdivision where there's 400 houses that were all built within the same year or two, and they're all basically the same, they all have poured concrete foundations, they all have wood frame vinyl siding, they all have asphalt shingles, the roofs are all trusses. You can put that stuff in to a template and apply 10, 20, 30, 40 entries all in a single click. We'll talk about that a little bit more because there's going to be a couple of caveats I'm going to throw at you on that one. And then the third one that I might mention is a template built around a specific problem on a system or component. And so it might be things like vermiculite insulation, if that's an issue in your areas, polybutylene piping, knob and tube wiring, wet basements, those kinds of specific issues that often require a little explanation for a client. And so those make very good templates as well. All right, so those are 3 ideas, but you'll probably come up with more, and some of the experienced folks have probably already done so. All right, why do I like templates so much? Well, 3 things: speed, consistency, and completeness. It saves a bunch of clicks, which we've been talking about. It also saves me having to create a note. And I'm not very good on the fly at creating great technical language. So having the chance to do it once, get it right, and then just capture it and use it forever reduces the risk of making mistakes, reduces the risk of typos, absolutely. And the consistency is you're going to say the same thing every time. So aluminum wiring, I'm going to say exactly the same thing to every client in the report. I don't have to think about it. And the completeness I touched on earlier, that auto add to the summary, is a very convenient thing to have. Okay, now what I'd like to do, we've touched on templates and what they're all about. And what I'd like to do is do a little sidebar on presets. But Brian, before I do, can I ask you to do me a favor? And can we just do a really quick poll? I'm curious to know how the audience feels about presets and how many folks are using them.
For sure. Let me get that started for you right now. All right, everyone, you're going to see a little pop-up on your screen. There's just 3 options. Yes, you use presets. No, you don't. Or perhaps you're still a student, and so you're not writing reports yet. Please let us know. Love to hear from you. So right now,
Talk-
just so we've got over 300 people in attendance, which is great. Love to see everyone here so engaged and enthused. And we're getting a lot of people responding to the poll, which is fantastic. Almost 80% so far. So thank you for your participation, folks. Means a lot. Now, Alan, I'm not sure if you get to see the poll yet or not. I don't think so. If memory serves
Well,
me right.
I can see it, but I can't participate. So I hate this game, but that's all right.
All right. I think we're good for time. Let me just close the poll here. Thanks again for everyone for participation. So we had over 300 people vote, and let us share the results. So you can see here that we've got a pretty mixed field where a lot of people are using them, a bunch of people aren't, and of course we've got a lot of students, which welcome to A, our community events, and B, to the industry. All right, so that's, pardon me, sir, up to you.
That's funny. That is a really good cross section. And first of all, to all the students, hats off to you for being here tonight and welcome. Hopefully you get something out of this. And yeah, we've got a pretty evenly divided house for those who are practicing. So yeah, this should be fun. All right, so let's move on and look at what a preset is and how it's a little bit different than a template. Okay, so a preset is kind of a mini template, but it has a twist. Let's see. So here's a little table we've created. And in the highest level, templates deal with many things and presets deal with one thing. So a template can deal with descriptions, limitations, and recommendations, whereas a preset only deals with a single recommendation. So that's a key difference. Now, they can both handle location, task, time, cost, notes, and add to summary. Both can do illustrations, technical articles, URLs. Only templates can do photos. It's a feature of templates that a lot of people don't know about, is that you can embed a photo or an image that you capture into your template. And I was very impressed to see one of our users recently had done a very elegant job with clothes dryer vents, showing images of vents done right and vents done wrong. An excellent use of photos in a template. So hats off to Tara. The other difference that I noticed between templates and presets is when I'm report writing, to enter a template, I've got to click and go to the template section. So it pulls me a little bit away from my report writing rhythm. On a preset, it's in line with your report writing. So once the preset is built, the item is just in your report writing database. You just click it as you go and everything happens automatically. So a little bit of subtle difference there. Both are great tools, but the preset, think of it as a much more focused tool. Okay, let's carry on. All right, so we've touched on the fact that because presets are entered in line, they're a little bit faster. We don't have to navigate to the template section. For those of you who work in Horizon Mobile, if you're using templates, you've got to be connected, you've got to be online, whereas with presets, it doesn't matter. You can be online or offline. Presets, as we'll look at in just a minute or two, are super quick and easy to create. They're one notch simpler than templates. Templates are pretty straightforward as well, but presets can be even quicker. And we're going to show you a couple of shortcuts on presets as well that make them even more fun. So a little bit different in a few ways. Okay. So with a preset, I think I could tell you about it in a lot of words, or I could ask Brian to show you. That might be a better way to do it. So I've got something, a long rambling recommendation here about asphalt shingles. I put a note to remind myself it has to go to the summary. And this is the kind of thing that you might do fairly regularly. And instead of repeating it all the time, why don't we make it a preset? Brian, how would you go about doing that?
Sure, Alan. Just give me a second here, toggle back, and we'll get that taken care of. All right, so going back to my home screen, from here I'm going to go into my sandbox report. Now, this one you had mentioned is about near end of life expectancy for asphalt shingles, really common condition, as you mentioned, Alan. So we're going to go into our recommendation heading. Now, for those that need a recap, again, this is also on our YouTube channel, so you can always check that out there. And this video will also be posted there. Now, we're going to choose the appropriate heading and then select the appropriate condition or item. Now, if you're new to Horizon, this is what you're going to be using to build out your recommendations. And of course, for a lot of the veterans, this is old hat, but your direction, floor level, and room comprise your location field. So you can use any combination of the three. I'm just going to use throughout. I believe that's what you'd selected, correct, Alan?
Correct, absolutely. That works for this one.
Perfect. And of course, if your shingles are near end, we got to replace them. So we'll choose that. And for time frame, I believe you selected less than a year, correct?
That is what we said. Makes perfect sense.
Now,
not always, but most of the time.
Now, your cost estimate's a bit unique, so we're not going to be able to leverage the standard options right here. So I'll build that in at the next screen, but I am going to add it to the summary because it's a significant issue. So we've been able to formulate the basis of the recommendation from this screen. And again, this is a one-time endeavor, folks. Go to next. Now, I'm going to take the liberty of copying and pasting your notes so I don't typo. And I'm going to pop it into the notes field like I just did. And I'm also going to take the liberty of copying and pasting your cost, just so we've got that neatly in there and save a bit of time. So all in all, we've been able to formulate that recommendation that you wanted. And again, this is something that, as you mentioned, you use on a semi-regular basis. So at this point, what we're going to do to establish the preset is we're going to click this link. Now, once you do this, and you can do this from any report, it's going to confirm that this recommendation is always used whenever you select the respective condition or item, as we call it internally. Now you'll notice that the link itself, although poorly highlighted, has now said default text is set for the item. At this point, we've established the preset. So if I click Save and Close, I'm back to report writing. And just to reinforce what we've done, I can go so far as to remove the item from the report that I'm currently on. And I can re-add it, and the preset will automatically be enforced. Now, we're focusing on the web version this evening because this is where you set up and manage things. But keep in mind, when you're using Horizon Mobile, this is also going to be in effect. It's going to transform how quickly you can write reports on site, guaranteed. And as you can see, the finished product. All right. Anything you want to say here, Alan, before I toggle back to the PowerPoint?
Yeah, just a couple of general guideline points. I have a rule of thumb that says if it's true more than 90% of the time, I make it a template, and the location of throughout on a worn out roof probably fits that criteria. Sorry, I said make it a template, I meant make it a preset. And if it's less than 90%, I'm going to have to change it too often, and I don't bother making it a preset. The opportunity to put in a note, and again, this is a note we would make most of the time that we recommend roofing. We generally recommend stripping the roof, gives you an opportunity to do a better job laying the new shingles, and also to inspect and repair the sheathing if you need to. And we give people, at Carson Dunlop, we give our clients ballpark costs. In this case, we give them a square foot number and so on. So, and those will be, if you don't do it, it's not an issue. If you do, you're going to put in what works in your market. And that is it.
All right. So I'm going to click Save and Close again, just to get it out of the screen. Now, Alan, of course, we're doing things from scratch, right? I want to get people into it. And especially for people that have never created something, they can go right from their database and start building them out. But if you've written a bunch of reports on Horizon, do you have like a best practice suggestion to expedite setting up your library presets? Any ideas there?
Absolutely, Brian. You made a key comment as you were creating that preset, and you said, well, I can go into any report and do this. And that includes reports you've already generated. And so think about reports you've generated, going in and having a look and saying, boy, I really nailed that. And I keep writing something very similar to it. So you don't need to create it the way Brian did, because all of the meat and potatoes of the preset are already there for you. So as you go back and you scan your old reports, you can select the gems and simply hit one button and turn that into a preset that is always going to be available to you from here until forever. So yeah, creating presets from existing reports is a terrific shortcut and a very sensible way to build out your presets.
Just to reinforce what Alan's saying, back at the home screen, I toggled my status to completed. That way I just have isolated my completed inspections. Again, I'll go back to report writing. And in this case, this is a report I've already finished. And there is a recommendation I made in heating. So I'm going to toggle over to heating recommendations. And it's again about near end. There's a lot of commonalities, but of course everything can be preset. I'm going to click on the note here because that takes us to the note screen. So you can see here that the recommendation is the locations of the furnace room. Task is to replace because it's near end. We don't know when it is, so it's when necessary. Again, at Carson Dunlop, we give that cost estimate, and we've got a general note. So do you feel that everything here would be suitable to create as a preset, Alan, or any changes you would recommend making before doing so?
I like this one. It might be a bit of a risk to say furnace room. And if you're in a part of North America where the furnaces are in the attics or in a closet, you might want to either leave location out or customize that to suit yourself. But by and large, I think this is another very solid one.
Perfect. So again, just to reinforce, you're going to click this link to establish the preset. And now you've been able to create a preset from a previous item in a report. Save and close. Now, keep in mind that although we are able to leverage this one exactly as is, if, for example, you wanted to omit the location, as Alan was mentioning, maybe it's too situational for your area, I'm just going to undo the preset for a moment. If you remove, just say, for example, cut a particular field, and then click the preset link, you've now been able to create the preset with what you have currently on screen. I can now paste back in the furnace room, which is perhaps just specific to this report. And now my preset contains everything but the value that is not specific. So there's also another way to leverage not only the entire recommendation at times, but also parts of one that are, again, perfect to the everyday situation. So a couple key things that you'll want to be mindful of about and setting up your presets and in preparation for building your templates as well. I believe there was one other thing that you wanted to talk about. We sort of hinged on it earlier with creating not only your presets, but then also getting into templates. What was that again, Alan? Can you jog my memory?
That presets can be a subset of your templates. Not sure what point you're after.
Links. Sorry.
I'm
too facetious.
You got a step ahead of me. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. Yeah, one of the other joys of doing all this is the ability to provide the links we talked about earlier. And so you can add a link to a preset item or to a template, and it's about as easy as falling out of bed. So Brian, why don't you just show us that?
All right, so I'm going to go back to my sandbox report here, back at the home screen. And in this case, we're going to reference knob and tube wiring. There's already a built-in item. Now, this is actually going to be a two-step process. So a lot of people are also not aware that we have got a customize feature that allows you to edit items, change the item itself, implications, in this case, add a URL. So I'm going to navigate to the appropriate system and section. We'll then go to the customize option, which you find in the top right-hand corner. From here, we're going to find the appropriate heading. I'm just going to scroll down until I get to knob and tube. Okay, Control F, we'll do it a little faster. Select Noted in Home. Now I've taken the liberty of already having the website open in another tab, but I always recommend that instead of typing out the website address, you go to the website itself, copy the full URL, and at that particular time, you can just simply paste it back into the URL field here at Customize. Just ensures that you get the full correct address. Save allows you to establish the update. Pardon me, sir?
Oh, carry on, Brian, finish off.
So we've been able to set up the link, and then to cap off that, we would go back and create the preset. And for that, we would simply go back to the report writing screen, select the item like we just edited, and make the recommendation that we need. So in this case, we're going to add in a link, or we've already added a link. We're going to add in a task and time, both of which are custom. So we're going to go to the next screen. Now, in this case, the one that you wanted me to set up doesn't include a location. Why is that, Alan?
Well, when we're talking knob and tube wiring, you never know where it's going to be in the house. So I think it would be really risky to put in a location. Sometimes it might be the entire house, so you could put throughout, but most often it won't be. By the way, I don't love home inspectors trying to speculate where all the knob and tube wiring is in a house. And I really hate when home inspectors say the house is 30% knob and tube wiring. I think that's a very risky thing to do. I know a lot of electricians who work fairly hard to figure out exactly where the knob and tube wiring is, and it can take them an hour plus in a house to figure that out. There's no chance that that's part of what a home inspector should be doing. So I would leave location out on this one for sure.
Awesome. So we're going to click the link again to set up the preset, save and close. And just for good measure, I'm going to preview this so you can see what it looks like in a report. And then we'll toggle back to our PowerPoint. So you can actually see the previous one that we set up with regard to near end of life expectancy. So that's going to be the, let me zoom in a bit. It's a little too small for everyone. You can see what it would look like in a report. That's the first preset we set up. And the second one happens to go a step further. You can see that the condition is linked to the article. We then have our implication, task, time, cost. The illustrations get auto-included. Roughly how many do you have in the database so far, Alan?
We've got about 1,800 illustrations that are available to you, some of which are auto-embedded in with Horizon data points, and others which you can use and control, do whatever you like with. I also wanted to make one point, just to add a little context to what Brian's been talking about here. With knob and tube wiring, our electrical utility has put out a one-pager about knob and tube wiring, and it's a fascinating one-pager because it talks about the myths and the realities of knob and tube. And it's actually quite reassuring to people who have knob and tube wiring in their house, and it dispels a bunch of the scary bad news stuff about knob and tube. So it really lends itself well to inclusion in a home inspection report. And again, because you're dealing with the local authority having jurisdiction, it's absolutely irrefutable. And those kinds of things stand you in good stead for defending what you put in a house or what you put in a report about the house. And I think it makes you look good and quick and easy to do with the preset tool.
Perfect. Let me go ahead and just minimize that. All right, let's toggle back. And just because we got a lot of questions with regard to it, once you've added a preset to your report, if you wanted to go in and change a specific value, you can go ahead and edit that at that point in time without modifying the preset. So if for happenstance you wanted to go in and include a note, a location, or to simply update the task because it was situationally different, once the preset's been applied, to simply go into the note screen as we are, make your changes, and it's going to respect the change you made. The preset will maintain as it is. So if I deleted this and add it again or to any other report, it's going to use the task that I provided. So that way, whenever you do need to, on the fly, make adjustments, it's going to be able to do so just with a click. You know, templates are going to work ideally, or presets, pardon me, 9 times out of 10. And that 1 time out of 10, you're going to situationally revise things as you see here.
That's a good point. Whoever asked that question, hats off to you. That's an important question, that flexibility around using presets. Okay, let's move on. And thank you for the patience while we talked presets in a template presentation, but I think that was important to do. Okay, now let's have a look at templates themselves. Come on, thing. Why will my slide not advance? Brian, can you give me a hand? Thank you. Okay, so I just want to make sure we're going to recap templates and presets we've talked about and the differences between them. Now, people ask about Speedwrite. And for those of you not familiar, Speedwrite is a tool that invites you to make a bunch of entries really quickly without having to navigate. So you make one entry and it brings the next one up. You make that entry, it brings the next one up, and so on. And so there's a lot of data that gets entered by experienced Horizon users using the Speedwrite tool. people often wonder, well, is there a conflict if I apply a preset or a template and then go into Speedwrite? The answer is no. Horizon is smart enough to avoid a double entry. So if you've already made a specific entry once using a template, Speedwrite will not ask you to do it again, and vice versa. If you put it in Speedwrite, the template will not apply it again, nor will a preset. So just a quick note on, you don't have to sweat the details about double entry. Okay, let's see if my advance works. Now there we go. Or help, or thank you, Brian, as the case may be. I'm not sure which. Okay, so we've talked about this before. Templates can include description, limitations, recommendations, and all of these things. We talked about location is perhaps risky, cost most of you won't do. Okay. Oh shoot, too far. There we go. Tips, we've kind of hinted at this one. Don't make your templates too specific. If you make them too specific, you either waste a lot of time going in and editing them, fixing them on the fly for that report, or if you're a sloppy proofreader like me, you risk leaving something wrong in the report and looking foolish to your client. So the location example is a good one to be careful with. So when in doubt, leave it out of your template is the message here. Okay, come on, Alan. Okay, a couple of other thoughts. I am not big on loading up your report with limitations. Why is that? I'd rather you rely on the limitations that are addressed in your standards of practice, because they're authoritative, they're created by a larger body, and it's not you making up the unfair rules of the game. You're playing by the rules of the game set by somebody else, and that works to your advantage. And I know inspectors love to build limitations into their reports to cover their butts. However, how do you think clients feel about reading a bunch of limitations? It's not interesting on the first front, and on the second front, they worry that the home inspector may be more interested in protecting themselves than looking after the client. So I would minimize the heavy use of limitations in a report. And I see a number of templates that kind of pepper the report with limitations. I would ask you not to do that. I'm also going to ask you to be careful about building templates that describe an older house. The reason I say that is, if it's a 1970s house, you might know exactly how it was built, but the odds are it's been updated and your template will be wrong. So a 1970s house in our market would have almost certainly had copper supply piping. However, if they've renovated the kitchen or a bathroom, you may very well have some PEX piping now. So your template is not going to be accurate. So I'm going to say templates for whole houses, I keep them to modern houses that are not so likely to have been updated and changed, which makes your template wrong. Okay. And I don't know what I'm doing wrong with this mouse. There we go. The last thing I'm going to say is, please don't make your templates junked up with maintenance recommendations. If you've heard me talk before, you know I do not like maintenance recommendations included in reports. And here's why. Your client's trying to make a big financial and lifestyle decision. They are trying to understand the condition of their house. I know as home inspectors, we want to be helpful and positive and constructive, but quite frankly, putting maintenance stuff in an inspection report confuses the client in most cases. So you're moving around from a cracked heat exchanger on a furnace to a rotted beam in the crawl space to a worn out roof. And now you're going to tell them to clean the gutters twice a year. It just doesn't fit. And it throws them off, and they're wondering, what am I missing about the gutters? Is there a problem here too? There's a problem in the last three things I read. What am I missing? So I have a bunch of suggestions about maintenance recommendations. I love that you want to put them in. You absolutely should, but put them in at the end or in a separate tab. Make it easy for the user to understand, hey, these are tips that apply to any house. This is not reflective of the condition of my home. So Brian, do you have an idea as to how we might do that? Do you want to talk about anything here?
Sure. Well, I know that we have got an ancillary. So for people that aren't aware, Ancillaries are additional topics or systems that you can have added to your account, so you can report on a bunch of different things. And one of them is specifically maintenance recommendations. We actually have, let me toggle back here really quickly. And for anyone that's interested and would like this, just reach out to our support team. We'll be glad to help you out getting this on your account. So you're going to traditionally have a 1 and a 2 at report writing. Now, again, the options that you create online through your account will be available in Horizon Mobile. Just again, the focus here being on the web version tonight. So when you click on 2, this is what we call, well, tab 2. And within it, you get your ancillaries. A really common one that people have is site information. There's one for recalls if you happen to use it. But for our focus, it's the Our Advice one. And with this, you have a series of headings within the description, as it's focused primarily on that, although you can expand to recommendations or even limitations if you wanted to. And you've got a multitude of headings with great built-in statements and advice reference points that you could include at your discretion. And remember that ancillaries only show up when you select something within it. So if you didn't want to include the advice on a particular report, or in my case, site info recalls, it's not going to show up if you don't fill something out within it. And when we get into templates, as Alan's mentioning, you can also tongue-tied here, utilize templates for your ancillaries. So if you wanted to set up maintenance suggestions via template, you could do so. The appendix item, which Alan has graciously provided for everyone, is actually available as a handout. So on the control panel, if you look, there's going to be a handout section. We've got home maintenance advice. This is what Carson Dunlop provides as an appendix item on their reports. Alan's been so gracious to provide it for you if you'd like to utilize that on your own. Later on, I can show people how to add that to their appendix and have it auto-included when we get into the Q&A for those that are interested, but the handout is already available if you'd like to download it now. Back to you.
Thanks, Brian. That's great. And I mean, I'm just reminded listening to Brian that Horizon was kind of built from the inside out, meaning we built it for Carson Dunlop first because we care about how it works. And so you'll see a lot of the things that we're talking about tonight are things that we have built in to make report writing easier and to provide a terrific final product for our clients. And so those are our focal points. Make it fast and easy and as foolproof as you can, because report writing is a son of a gun of a challenge. It is a lot of work. It requires focus, concentration, and skill. And so the easier we make it, the better it is for everyone. So a lot of these things are super powerful. Brian, on that Our Advice ancillary, I also wanted to mention that if people make those templates, they can pick whichever ones apply in their area. And there's quite a long list of things in there. So you can build one. And what you might also do is build one for houses that includes all of the things that you would do for maintenance. And you could also build a separate template for condos, because a high-rise condo, you're not going to be dealing with the roof or the exterior, for example. So the maintenance recommendations will also be slightly different, or a subset of your house maintenance recommendations. Another powerful use of templates, you can take something that fits most of the time, maybe 75% of the time, and the other is a bang on 25%. You can have two templates and apply whichever one fits the situation. So that to me is another really nice thing to do. And the fact that it's a template means that you can only apply it when you need it. So if you do a partial inspection, let's say you do a roof investigation for somebody, we probably want to focus on their roof problem and what you're going to tell them about that. You probably not want to give them a whole bunch of general maintenance recommendations. Simply don't apply the template. Very simple. So the elegance of the tools are sometimes not completely apparent. It's why Brian and I get a little passionate about talking about them, but there is so much flexibility built in. It does really make your life easier if you use the tool elegantly. Okay, so let's build a template. Let's get on with it. Now, wait a minute. Before we build the template, let's just go back. Brian, can you do another poll for us? I just want to see how many people are already building templates actively.
Of course, Alan. Give me 1 second here, folks. We're going to initialize another poll. Same 3 questions, if you'd be so gracious as to give us your insight. Do you use templates? Do you not? You're still in your studies and not writing reports yet. All right. Again, great participation. Thank you so much. Again, we've still got over 300 people listening in, and over 80% have already contributed their input. Thank you so much. That's fantastic, folks. All right, give another couple seconds, and then we will cap off the poll. Looks like no is leading the race, 42% at this point. Let's see. Okay, let's cap off and share the results. 42 no, 31 yes, and 27 still in their studies.
Okay, so about a third of you folks are using templates. Okay, so that's good. So let's go ahead and see if we can get the rest of the group comfortable with templates, Brian.
For sure. Give me a second here to toggle back to my account. So we're going to create one template this evening. We have also a bunch of new templates, as we'll talk about very shortly. And for people that will perhaps need a more in-depth review of how to set this up, keep in mind that we do have some videos on our YouTube channel, and we'll be glad to reach out by phone if you'd like a one-on-one discussion. Having said all that, let's get the heck to profile. And again, we're going to go back down to section 3, report config. And then from there, we're going to go into templates near the bottom of the screen. Click settings. So, excuse me, my apologies, everyone. The two standard templates provided are no attic access and post-1980s home. So we're going to create one in a similar vein to the no attic access for no crawl space access. Now, the template I'm actually creating is available in our help center for those that would like to create it themselves at any point in time. But for now, let me walk you through the nuts and bolts. So we're going to click create a new template. We're going to give it a name. Now, it does go in alphanumeric order, as I was mentioning earlier, so think of a good naming convention. For simplicity's sake, I'm just going to continue with what I've done, which is no access, in this case, to the crawl space. Establish the name for your template, click Save and Back, and it's going to be immediately in your list and ready for you. So in this case, there's nothing we can apply. Once you've got the template established, go ahead and click Edit to the far right, and then you'll click Edit Template Contents. Now, the beauty of creating a template is that it actually mimics report writing. It's just as if you're writing a report. So from here, the focus is on no access to the crawl space. So we're going to theme it around the structure. And we can safely say that the description can describe the configuration of the structure as a crawl space. Now we can also include a recommendation about no access. So there's a heading specifically for this called Foundations Crawl Space. Now, if you don't see that in your database, keep in mind that you can use the Show Hide Items here to set that up in your database so you have it available for whenever you write your reports. But within Foundations Crawl Space, you've got a built-in item, no access to the crawl space. And in this particular instance, I've already got the preset set up, and it includes a task and time. So we've already taken the liberty of putting that information in. So that's, again, the benefit of presets, right? I've set it up earlier in my account. I now have that available when I go in and create the template. And at this point, we've got the item as we need. Now, Alan, in this particular one, again, we didn't include a location. Is this something, why? Just by, maybe clarity.
Yeah, a couple of points here, Brian. First of all, I really hate telling people that the crawl space is located in the crawl space. We're talking about the crawl space in the first place, self-evident to me. If the people can't figure out where the crawl space is in the house, they maybe shouldn't be homeowners, I'm not sure. So we don't usually put that in. To me, it just feels redundant. The second point I wanted to make is a subtle little one here, that this preset includes something we haven't talked about previously, and that is the custom implication. And so you'll notice that the implication says, what's the implication of not being able to get into the crawl space? Well, potential concealed moisture problems or issues with the structure, mechanical, electrical systems, or the insulation. So I just wanted to also give a little sidebar explanation. Why do we have templates for no access to attic and crawl space? The reason is I'm very familiar with a lawsuit, which this one didn't include Carson Dunlop, but it might have, And the lawsuit came about because the client had a problem in the crawl space. The home inspector had said he couldn't get there, but the judge said the home inspector should have gone further than just saying I couldn't get into the crawl space. He should have made it clear what might be hidden in there, and he should have made a recommendation for the client to take action on it to protect himself. So what we've done is no access to crawl space. I see a lot of home inspectors just tick off the limitation box, and I don't think that goes far enough. So in building a template and giving you a template to use, it helps to cover your butt so that you can say, not only did I not get into the crawl space or get into the attic, but you should go ahead, provide access, and inspect it to make sure you don't have concealed problems. That's the thinking behind this template.
Thank you for the insight, Alan. And we're just going to finish off the template with one additional item, which is going to mention the limitation to the crawl space. So at this point, Alan, I believe we've put together the template that you wanted, and we've got all the central items as you intended. So when we preview this, to your point, we've got it set up, and this is what it's going to look like in the finished product.
So yeah, that's the key thing. We've got not just the limitation in, but we've got the recommendation for the client. So that tells the whole story. Perfect.
Awesome. Now, when it comes to finishing up your template, the reality is it's auto-saving every step of the way. So as you make your entries and select them, as I just did, the template is ready literally for use as it stands. So once you're done creating the template, you can toggle back to your profile or home screen, wherever you want to go. And just by happenstance, going to my test inspection, I could go ahead and apply that template and have that information added to the report as simple as 1, 2, 3.
So Brian, to sum it up, creating a template is almost exactly like writing a report.
You got it. Exactly that, Alan. It is mimicking report writing 100%. And that allows you to establish what you want, the comments you need, and be able to use them moving forward. Now, my friends, in Horizon Mobile, the next time you do a full sync, it's going to download your new templates, and they'll be available provided you're online for use. And so you can see here I've got that template available, the other two, and I can always return back to make any edits that I may need. All right, let me get back to the PowerPoint for you there, Alan.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Brian. Okay. Sorry, I am wrestling with this mouse tonight. So as Brian mentioned earlier, we have created a number of templates that you can use. And there's a listing of them here. Is this all inclusive? Is this the right list? No and no. This is, think of these as placeholders. Think of these as starting points, motivators, inspiration. They're not going to suit you exactly in a lot of cases. And in a couple, you can see I've gone so far as to put the word Toronto in brackets on the right side, because in our market, a type of PEX piping called Kitech is a big issue. And there's Kitech itself, and there's a bunch of Kitech cousins made by IPEX, and we treat them slightly differently. So you're welcome to take those and change them to whatever issues you might have in your market, or simply ignore them. So there is a lot of meat on the bone here when you start to drill down into these templates. Some of them have a lot of entries. And again, it's a good starting point, but it's not the final word. And if you take the time to go through these, you'll undoubtedly say, well, that's great. But in my market, for example, we've got old asphalt shingle roof. If you're in a market where concrete tile roofs are the most common, you might create a template for that. So different strokes depending on where you are. And Brian, can you remind me where people can find these templates?
Certainly. So folks, when you go to your Horizon account and go to the Help Center, I'm going to take you to the Help Center. You can, in this case, I already have the page loaded, but if you just search templates, you're going to see the first result is called Available Templates. So we're going to continue to curate and expand upon this list, and we'll have more probably on a weekly basis for you. So continue to check back. We'll also let people know in our newsletter about any upcoming and new templates. Now, basically, these are templates themselves. So when you click on one, it's going to give you what the template contains, all the information broken down system by system, the respective headings that are used, and the items that are included. Now, this does mean that you have to recreate the template in your account. So that's the intention, is allows you to control what goes into it and ensure that it's exactly for your needs. So in this case, if I wanted to recreate the modern subdivision houses one, I would go into my account and back at where we set up the initial template for no access to the crawl space, I would begin the process of creating it. So it will be a bit of a manual process, but that ensures that you're familiar with what goes in the template. You can customize it, as Alan mentioned, to your specific needs as you're setting up the one time. And this is where you would then basically, if you have two monitors like I do, you could basically start filling in item by item what it is. So in this case, you can select the roof materials, asphalt shingles, and so on and so forth. And the recommendations happen to be a general one. So you would just continue to fill out the template. We've got a lot more to cover, so we'll circle back to Alan, but you've got access to it through our help center. I'll put the link in the chat for everyone so they have direct access to that resource. And again, this is going to be an ever expanding list. And if you have ideas on what we could potentially use as a template, feel free to submit them. We always love to hear from the community. Back to you, Alan.
All right, Brian, thank you. I think we are in pretty good shape here, except I can't get the mouse to move again. Give me a hand, Brian. Thank you. Okay, a couple of general rules of thumb, most of which we've touched on now, but I want to just kind of reiterate. First of all, make sure every item in the template applies to you. And by the way, you have me to blame for having to manually put the template items into your reports. And I did that for a very specific reason. I do not want home inspectors blindly copying in templates and applying them based on just what the heading says. You are going to get into trouble if you do that. I want you to go through and look at each item, and this was the best way I could think of to have you do that. So with apologies for making a little bit of one-time work for you, I'm trying to keep you out of jail. We talked about sorting the templates. You can use alphanumerics to get them in the order you want. You can even use dummy templates if you want to break your list into headings. For those of you who have lots of headings, lots of templates, that might be a pretty useful thing. By the way, if you're trying to build a template and you can't find the item in your database, and Brian made this point in part of his demonstration, then you can just go into the show hide section and the database item is probably hidden. By the way, if you have not gone through our massive database and hidden everything that does not apply to your business or your region, you are doing yourself a huge disservice. It's a project that takes 30 to 45 minutes, maybe a little more, but again, it's a one-time piece of work. It declutters your database, allows you to write reports more quickly and more accurately, and well worth the effort. Now, occasionally you'll find a template item that you want to use that may not show up because it's hidden. Just go in and show it again. And I'm not sure we have time to get in, but the Help Center can show you how to access show hide. Again, it's a process where the learning curve is about 30 seconds long, and it takes a few minutes to do it, but it is definitely time well spent. Okay, did I skip over a slide there? Yes, I did. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we've touched on this. Existing templates we've given you, or if you change your mind, you built a template and then you find things change and evolve, it is so easy to edit a template. It is just a piece of cake. So much like editing a report, editing a template is very straightforward. We talked about the illustrations, photos, and links, adding those. And if you get stuck adding stuff or changing stuff, we do have the world's best support team on Horizon available to give you a hand. So just reach out and they will get you right. Okay, last thought on report writing with templates, and I've touched on it, but please, please, please proofread your reports. The template tool, the preset tool, they save you so much time. Give a little bit of that saved time back and proofread your reports. Remember that a template adds a ton of items, and you need to make sure they're all right for that particular house and that particular client. I will say that clients and agents are a little bit merciless about throwing out the baby with the bathwater, meaning if you have one little mistake, it can really impact your credibility. So take your time, proofread it, make sure you get it right. Okay. Oh, I think I skipped over one again. Let me close with a quick touch on auto include. Okay, so auto include is different, but a great feature. And it's very descriptive. So we're going to click a button and have that item appear in every report every time. Bit of a double-edged sword because you might not want it all the time. So when you use auto include, make sure that this, what you're going to put in, fits every scenario. So you click it, set it up, it appears in every report. You don't have to make an entry. It's just automatically, as soon as you create, preview the report, that item is in there already. And again, don't worry about double entry, because if it's already been added elsewhere, the auto include will not repeat it for you. So as you're using them, again, my thrust is make sure it applies to everything you do. And we'll maybe just have a look here. Here's how we do it. So if you go into the Customize tab, which Brian showed you earlier, and again, if you've lost thread, if you need a hand, that little help button at the top of every screen is magical. It takes you to your support center. You can type in Customize, and it'll show you how to do that. You can type in Auto Include, it'll take you there. And so to have any item appear in every report, you simply hit the Auto Include button. That's it, there and back. So it takes about 10 seconds to do, and it is a very useful tool for those things that always apply. Okay. That brings us to the end. And Brian, I'm pretty sure that for the first time ever, we have had no questions tonight. Is that right?
You got me. No questions.
Excellent.
So a few of them, to say the least. And if you have any questions you'd like answered, feel free to send them our way, my friends, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can between now and 9:30. And again, if we're not able to answer your question between now and 9:30, we will follow up by email tomorrow to do our best to help you out. So we're going to actually get out of PowerPoint for a quick second, because a lot of them seem central to report writing and things of that nature, as that's the topic of the evening. First question, Tara wanted to know, for clarity, where do you go and modify illustrations that are included with an item? So if you don't mind, Alan, I'll just go ahead and answer that for her and everyone else. Again, you can do this from, oh, pardon me, sir.
I was just going to say, always better to show than to tell. So yeah, absolutely, this is brilliant. I love the fact that Brian's taking this kind of proactive, kind of making this whole thing visual. So go ahead, Brian.
Oh, no, thank you. We're all here to help. So we'll go to report writing. And again, my friends, the customize features in the top right-hand corner here. So that's where you're able to make all the changes to your database, like renaming categories, or pardon me, headings, modifying items, and to our point, editing your illustrations. So from customize, you have to navigate to the specific item. Just as an example, structure, there is a recommendation with regard to typical minor cracks. So we're going to get into our structure recommendation section here. And under the Foundation General Notes heading, you'll find the typical minor cracks item. It's got 4 really handy illustrations included, but if you wanted to modify which ones are shown automatically, this is where you would do just that. So you can see here we've got an illustration section at the bottom. You can see all the illustrations that are auto-included, and the X allows you to delete it from being auto-included with this particular item. Now, the counterpoint to this is that this is also where you can include illustrations with an item. So you can add or subtract illustrations from the customized screen like we're at now using the illustration section. And as far as adding an illustration, you literally just click in the box and you can type the illustration number or search using the tags. This is not obviously pertaining to this one, but you can see that's how it works in the concept. Again, we do have a video covering all of the customized features on our YouTube channel for those that need more in-depth review. Also, just because of Alan's last point about auto-include, my friends, it's also found at this particular screen. So you can include that at any point in time. If you do make any changes, of course, make sure to click Save at the bottom to apply those changes to the item, and then effectively, moving forward, those changes will be used for the item. So it will not back retroactively fill or change your reports. It only takes effect moving forward for the items that you would select. So in this case, typical minor cracks.
Brian, I have a suggestion.
Yes, sir.
And the suggestion is, when you're thinking about illustrations, what I really like is using the illustrated home, either a paper-based version or the ebook version, which you can get on our online store. And the reason is, I find it so much easier to sort through the illustrations and find the one you're looking for, find the number or the title, as Brian said. And it's just sometimes a book is just the easiest way to do it. It's a picture book with 1,800 illustrations, as we talked about earlier, and it's got a super index in it. It's really well cataloged, so you can find illustrations quickly and then drop them in there. So when it comes to adding illustrations, especially if you're creating new report items, it's nice to say, hey, do we have an illustration that fits? And if so, it's about the 10 seconds of clicking a button that Brian said. You go to the customize screen, you type in the number of the illustration, and you've got it. So that's a quick and easy way. And it's just scrolling through the illustrations, I think, is best done with the illustrated home book itself.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Alan. Next question is, we actually got several people asking this. This was regard to your knob and tube comment and the URL. So I will put the URL in the chat for everyone, but better yet, if knob and tube is a concern for you, please go to the available templates, as that was an example of creating a preset, which actually evolved into a potential template. So if you come in here, you're going to see knob and tube wiring as one of them. It's actually number 10. And this one not only contains the item that you would build out, but also the corresponding information within the electrical system that you'd want to include. And so that will give you access not only to the necessary resources, but also the URL. But I'll put the direct URL for anyone that just wants that, of course, as well. So just check out the chat, my friends. It's going to be there for you. But again, maybe a better suggestion for that one would be to set up the template and then use that when you have knob and tube or suspicions of it.
Also a great example, Brian, of why I want you to make the entries themselves as you build this, because you can see that is a great link to a great article by a utility, but it's the electrical utility specific to Ontario. So that is probably not going to be representative if you're not in the province of Ontario. So you may find a similar article and link like that, or you may frame it slightly differently in your discussion. So lots of ways to take what I'm going to refer to as our templates as inspiration, but not gospel.
Awesome. And Kevin, your question is with regard to default statements. I want to make sure, hopefully I interpret you correctly, but just as of this example, getting back to presets, you'll notice here that I do include a default statement about strongly recommending removing the existing roofing materials to examine the sheathing or perhaps have that replaced prior to laying the new materials. So that is auto-included every time I select this particular condition or again, item. So one of the things that if you're not able to do that, reach out, we can definitely double check on that. But as long as you put it as in the notes field, and then I just undid the preset by clicking the link again. So as long as it's in the notes field before you click the preset link, that will then be included every time you go to select that item. So that will also retain your notes. You just may need to, if you haven't, just go back in and update them. And you, again, to update a preset, right, you can just click the link so it's no longer stored as a preset, and then make your changes. And then when you click the link again, it's going to retain those new changes. It's not going to retroactively change anything you've made in old reports, but moving forward, it's going to use the new values for the preset. So hopefully that helps maybe remedy that. But if you need any further help, my friend, just let us know. Gladly reach out tomorrow and help you out on that. All right, here. Rob, question with regard to press releases, Alan. He wants to know, are you aware of the press release about the cooling off period, considered by legislators for home buyers, and any thoughts or comments on that?
Absolutely. So just for the benefit of everyone else, the province of British Columbia in Canada has introduced legislation that helps to address the buyers having to forego a home inspection problem. And the legislation would allow for a cooling off period of a number of days, not yet determined, after which, when a buyer signs an agreement, it's like the traditional conditional offers that we used to have that have disappeared with the crazy bidding wars. So it would give the buyer a few days after they've struck a deal to do their due diligence and research and financing, but also, most importantly to us, set up their home inspection. So it's a fascinating approach. It would be great if it comes to fruition. There is, you might have anticipated, quite a strong backlash from the real estate community about the wisdom of this. And the downside or the vulnerability in a real estate transaction is if the buyer and seller come to a tentative agreement, but then the buyer can take the house off the market for several days while they make up their mind, the seller is frozen in time, can't do anything, can't continue to list and show the house. It's sold conditionally. And so they're worried about buyers making frivolous offers on 2 or 3 or 4 houses, tying them all up while they choose between them. They're also worried about a seller having to take a house off the market in a really hot market and miss a selling opportunity to someone else. So I suspect there is going to be some to and fro on this, but it's fascinating to see. And there's also people misconstruing the cooling off period as a way to supply the housing as a way to resolve the housing shortage problem. It has nothing to do with solving the housing shortage problem. It has to do with allowing buyers to be protected. And I'm not going to tell you who, but a very high profile real estate individual that I chatted with recently told me, when we were talking about people having to forego home inspections, he said to me, well, remember, real estate is buyer beware, or caveat emptor is the Latin phrase. The reality is, if real estate is buyer beware, the buyer needs to become aware. That is, the buyer needs to have an opportunity to get a home inspection. And the way the market is working in a lot of parts of North America, buyers cannot become aware. So it's a bit frivolous to say buyer beware in the current environment. That's part of the message that we're trying to get through. Long answer to a short question. I think the cooling off period is a clever and fascinating approach. Whether it will get through and succeed or be watered down remains to be seen. It might be a bellwether for the rest of North America if it gets through. And of course, yeah, right across Canada, at least, I'm not sure about the US, but right across Canada, if you buy a pre-sale condominium, there is always a cooling off period in that purchase, typically 7 to 10 days, depending on the province or territory. Okay, sorry, Brian.
No, great information. I'm sure everyone benefited from that, even if they aren't happen to be in Canada. Kim just mentioned that you're not able to download the home maintenance advice. I will personally send that to you after the session, Kim. Just a friendly reminder, though, that we also include that as a link in our newsletter that's going to be sent out. Actually, I correct myself. I said this Friday. It's actually going to be this coming Monday that it's going to be sent out, but that will be included as well as a link to this replay. But I'll personally get it into your hands this evening, Kim. William, great to see you here. William, awesome. Now, William, with regard to your question, it's going to be a twofold answer, and hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn here, Alan. His question is, he's got a great report, and he'd like to basically create a template from that report. How could that potentially be done? As of right now, your best bet would be to preview that report, have it on a separate screen, and build it through the mechanics of your profile, similar to what we did with the no access to the crawl space. But I do know that we are looking at ways to always improve Horizon, and we are looking at ways to improve how you could create templates from existing reports, similar to how you can repurpose old reports to creating presets. Hopefully I'm not sharing too many secrets, trade secrets there, Alan, but things are in the wicks. And so, look to the definite future for easier ease of use on how that's done. But as of right now, you'd want to preview the report and basically rebuild it.
Yeah, Brian, that's a great point, and a couple of thoughts on that. One is that, yeah, there is a lot on the back burner and the front burner being cooked up on Horizon. So there is, suffice to say, there is lots coming. And by the end of 2022, I think the world will look a little different. The other side of that coin on that specific issue is, I hesitate to say be careful what you wish for. And I come back to, I think Brian made the comment about double-edged sword. If you've got a great report, that's terrific. Turning it into a template, you've got to be really careful that it's going to be useful and always applicable. Now, you may have a very specific thing in mind, which I absolutely give you credit for, but I just don't want other people, especially the newer people, to think that you want to copy an entire report. It would be rare that exactly the same report would be written on two different houses. So again, I'm not going to question this specific instance. I'm just going to say be careful to the rest of the audience about not doing that carelessly or casually, because that could be a big commitment and it could make you look foolish if you get it the slightest bit wrong.
Thank you. Rob actually wants just to reinforce sort of his use of templates and experience. So he uses two templates in almost every report, one for descriptions and one for limitations, with the most commons as defaults. Together, they enter over 120 items in the report. That's a ton of time saved, right? Can you imagine that? And he says under the description, modifies about approximately 5% of the time, needs to change, brick to stone or vinyl. So templates, game changer when you put them into practice, as Alan's suggesting, or as Rob's obviously putting into effective use as well. So I just wanted to share some of the success here.
Brian, one quick thought on that. I love what Rob is doing because he's got a process that he's manufactured where he applies a large template, but then he goes through and edits it on the fly in the report. So he's not adding a template and hoping for the best with his eyes closed. He's not flying blind. He's adding a template and knowing that he's probably going to have to make some tweaks to it. A very smart thing to do.
So, Rick has a question. With regard to the no add act to the crawl space, you're absolutely right. That is actually a preset. But because you can combine multiple elements or items in the template, you can evolve it from just a preset to a template. So in this case, going back to the list of templates here, specifically with this one, right, you nailed it on the head. It is a preset as far as the recommendation portion of it. But if you just left it at the preset, then you would be left to have to enter in the crawl space as the configuration and that you, in fact, had no access. So what you're doing is you're evolving the preset from one item to all the interconnected pieces. And that's really the benefit of the template, right? So in case you forgot to reference that the description was a crawl space or that you had no access, all three of those moving pieces are put into the report when you use the template. So it's a bit of an evolution of it. But you nailed it on the head. It is a preset to an extent, but then it expands upon it. And that's why you want to consider in these certain circumstances creating the template and not just relying on the preset. Any feedback there, Alan, or any comments just before we move along?
Try as I might sometimes, Brian, I just can't add anything intelligent to what you've already said.
Well, I learned it all from you, so we'll take it from there, but thank you kindly. Stefan, great. A couple of people asked us to reinforce. So my friends, again, you're going to go to the Help Center. I'm poor at highlighting things as shown there. And then you just want to type in the word template or templates, and it's going to be the very first result, okay? Again, we're going to continue to curate and expand upon this list. If you have some ideas on templates that may be really applicable for a lot of people, feel free to share them with us. We'll look at them, see what we can potentially do. And we'll constantly let you know in our newsletters about new templates that you can consider and create. And remember, my friends, you just click on the one that you'd like to set up. You'll get exactly what you need to build into your own template. And if you need a slower paced walkthrough on how to put all the items together, just check out our YouTube channel. Again, I'll put a link in the chat for everyone that needs that. Great questions, by the way, my friends. So Susan has a question, what about limited access? How would that be done? So inspection from a roof on the ground, right? Do you have any suggestions on perhaps creating, in this case, it would be more of a template, right? In that vein, what are your thoughts on how you'd set something up like that, Alan?
Well, that's a great question because it kind of ties in nicely with the attic and crawl space access questions. Now, if you can't get up onto the roof, which we sometimes can't, there are a number of ways that you might have inspected the roof. And again, if you have a go-to second process that you would use 90% of the time, let's say you look at the roof with binoculars. You might also use a camera on a telescopic pole. You might also use a drone. So there are a number of things that you might put in a template for how you looked at the roof when you couldn't gain access. At the same time, so again, if you've got a go-to, if you always use a camera on a pole, not a bad idea at all, then I would perhaps build the template around that. So no access to the roof. And then how did you inspect the roof? Then, and there's a discussion in Horizon community about whether how you perform the inspection should be in limitations or description, and I can argue that both ways. But then the next step to your template would be, what should the client do about that? And you might say access to the roof should be gained and a inspection performed by a specialist, something like that. By the way, I always use the word specialist rather than qualified roofer, qualified electrician, master plumber, red seal, carpenter, whatever. I use a single, simple, generic word called specialist. I don't want to evaluate the trades, and I don't want to offend a trade by excluding them from a given job. So specialist is what we do. So I hope that's helpful. There's a multi-component item to that. You're going to describe the roof, say you couldn't get on it, and then say how you inspected it, and then encourage them to get a fulsome inspection. Maybe by you with a longer ladder, who knows?
Awesome. Thank you, Alan. Great answer there for Susan. Now, a number of people asked, let's toggle back here. How many templates can you apply to a report? What's the short answer there, Alan?
All that you have.
Hopefully not on a single report, but I mean, sometimes it may arise. But yeah, absolutely right. So as many that are applicable, right? You got 100 templates, heaven forbid, and 10 of them or 20 of them applied, apply them all. You can either do it one at a time, which would be in certain circumstances, you're going to have to uncover something, right? There's an unknown, like no access to an attic or crawl space. So once you get to that situation, you would revisit your templates. In this case, I'm talking about, say, Horizon Mobile, and apply it as you're standing at that potential situation. If we're writing a report after the fact, like we are potentially now, when we're sitting back at the computer, then you could apply them all at once. So here, I already have that one applied, but let's say hypothetically, I had no access to the crawl space. It was a post-1980 home, and maybe we even had no access to the attic. All right, save them back. 59 items added to my report just like that. So that is going to be something that, again, you can leverage, as Alan's mentioned, even as Rob was mentioning, to quickly fill out large portions of the report. So no limit there in that regard.
Brian, one quick comment on the 59 items. Sometimes you'll apply a template and you'll know that it has 30 items in it, but you apply the template and it only applied 24. Is the template broken? No. What it means is 6 of the items you've already entered into the report through another means. So the number of items applied in a template is not always the total number of template items available, because it won't duplicate what's already been done.
Very true. Saves you from having those duplicate entries and again, going back to the discrepancies that can taint your report credibility. Mark, great to see you here. Thanks for the comments on the hair for both me and Alan. Question here. So if you're not an HVAC contractor or roofer or any trade, a specialist for that matter, as you like to call them, Alan, how can we say the condition of the component needs repair, replace, and give a cost? I just put in the report, contact a qualified professional. Is this wrong? I'm not saying you're wrong, just trying to get a sense of how things are. Great question, Mark. Great question. Alan, sage advice, please.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And it's what, frankly, most home inspectors do. Yeah, remedy is needed, and consult the right professional to get quotes to get the work done. What I don't like is home inspectors imposing on the real estate transaction. And sometimes inspectors say, get a quote and get firm prices before closing and before the close of escrow. Um, Injecting yourself into the real estate transaction, telling clients what to do and when to do it, to me goes a little bit beyond. But yeah, if you happen to give costs, and I understand probably 90+%, maybe 95% plus of home inspectors do not do their own repair cost estimates. So Carson Dunlop is a bit of an outlier there. You don't need to follow that guideline. So you are not leaving anything out. You are meeting your standards. If you don't give costs and you encourage people to go get quotes from professionals, absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that.
Awesome. I'm sure that's helpful for a lot of people listening in right now, Alan. Oscar, great question. Oscar's question is, he's going to a weekend called conveniently Tab 2. Guess we got to talk to our marketing team, but it is Tab 2. And that is where you have access to what we call your ancillaries. Now, my friend, if you don't see the ones on my account, recalls or our advice, that's because you can customize which ancillaries are on your account. How do you do that? Let me take you back to the Help Center. From the Help Center, I've already typed in the word, but you just type in the word ancillary, and I'm going to put the link in the chat for you and everyone else. And we have over 30 ancillaries, and we continue to expand upon this, that are free of charge. You simply reach out to the support team. You can submit a ticket right from the article if you'd like. Let us know which ancillaries you'd like added to your account. It takes approximately 1 day at the very most to get them on there, and then you'll have access to them at report writing like I'm at now. And then, in my opinion, more importantly, in Horizon Mobile 3, you're going to have the ability to select and fill this information out in real time as you perform the inspection. So basically, you got to unlock it through submitting a ticket or contacting the support team. We'll get it on your account. And once it's on your account, you'll have it available for everything we've discussed this evening. So great question.
How much did you say ancillaries cost, Brian?
I believe they're free. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think most things are free in Horizon once you pay.
You're absolutely right.
All right, my friends, we are past the 9:30 mark, and I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. I do thank everyone for their keen insights and feedback. What we're going to do is try to answer one more question, and the questions we're not able to address, again, we'll follow up by email from the support team tomorrow, so you'll reach out from us directly. And the last question of the night, let's see who we are at. So, when it comes to inspecting, are you required to walk a roof, go into the attic, or is this a personal choice?
Personal choice. Let me give you Carson Dunlop's approach to that. By the way, I don't believe any of the standards of practice insist that you walk the roof, and sometimes you cannot or should not walk the roof. Whether you might damage yourself or damage the roof are two different concerns. Secondly, going through the attic, and I know and I love inspectors who do make their way through the attic. I have stopped allowing our people to go through the attic if the ceiling joists or the bottom of the rafters are covered with insulation. We have had too many near misses from people stepping on open electrical connections, stepping on a ceiling joist that they can feel without realizing that it is cracked or broken or cut. So we inspect attics from the access hatch with that limitation, and we do not try to crawl through insulated attics because I think it is unsafe. You will find lots of home inspectors who disagree with me. Again, there's no hard and fast rule, and again, the standards do not require you to do it.
With that, thank you for your participation, everyone. Your questions will get answered, I guarantee you, tomorrow by the support team or Alan himself. The replay will be available on our YouTube channel this coming Monday, as well as an email will be sent out to all of you so you can access that. Remember that you do have access immediately to the new templates through our Help Center. That will also be included in the newsletter. If you need help about setting up ancillaries, templates, or just Horizon in general, reach out to myself, reach out to the support team. We're there for you. Anytime, glad to talk shop. Alan, any final words? Good, sir.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And I just want to say thank you to Brian, who does all the work behind the scenes, makes this all come together, and does his best to make me look good. So, Brian, thank you for everything you do. I appreciate another late night, just part of the job, right?
Enjoy the community participation, the spirit. Always glad to help and talk shop. It's great. I love seeing everyone here. Thank you so much again, everyone, for your involvement. Thank you for being part of the community. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Good luck on any upcoming inspections and reports you write. And thanks for choosing Horizon.